Hello and welcome everyone. Jay Fazette here, and I have the honor and the privilege of spending a couple of minutes picking the brain of the brilliant and beautiful Geeta Nadkarni. Now, Geeta is going to be with us in Vegas for the Mastermind to Millions event. She is a media specialist, worked with CBC, for those of you in the US, that's a Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, which is, broadcast nationally and has like more than 17 viewers. It is our national broadcaster piece. That was a joke about Canada being smaller than the US, if nobody caught that. Anyway, I want to first and foremost say thank you for carving out time, Geeta, to be with us. Geeta is our media expert. She has recently helped me get exposure and an article in Entrepreneur Magazine. Yay, Geeta.
Not an article, a column.
A column, yes.
Because you are now a columnist.
Which scares the crap out of me because now I got to write stuff. But that's a whole nother conversation. Anyway, welcome, Geeta. How are you today?
I'm great. I'm super excited to share some of my juiciest tips.
Perfect. So I know we are both on the clock as we're getting ready for this event in Vegas. So media.
Yes.
It's such a small topic.
It doesn't have to be that way. And I say this because I've been a journalist, a paid journalist since I was 12 years old, and I'll be turning 36 pretty much the day before you see me in Vegas. So I have more than 20 years of experience telling other people's stories. So I come to pitching. So this is my background in pitching. I've pitched from a number of different angles, more than most people. So I've been on the receiving end of a lot of pitches. As you mentioned, I've worked full-time on staff at the CBC, which is Canadian BBC. I've also, during that time, whenever I worked on staff at any media outlet, I would always freelance on the side. I have this entrepreneur thing going on, always have, basically since I was 10. And so what I would do is I would also pitch other media outlets with whom I didn't necessarily have a pre-existing relationship. So I'd be, pitching an editor for a magazine or a newspaper that I didn't work for and say, hey, I have the story. Would you be interested? And then I would get paid to write it. Mm-hmm. So I've been pitching. So I've pitched as a freelance journalist. I've received pitches as a journalist. Now, as a business owner, I own my own company, Baby Got Booked. I'm basically doing the same thing that I'm going to teach you how to do, which is to pitch the media as a subject matter expert, which helps you build credibility and trust and basically get people flocking to you because nobody else will do.
Interesting. So,
yes.
I mean,
what's step one? Yes.
I'm going to wager that most of the people watching this and coming to the Mastermind to Millions event, I'm going to wager that most of them have, at some stage of the game, tried to craft a press release and have sent it off into the ether to have a whole bunch of nothing transpire. Now, I'm quite certain I'm not the only one who's ever done that and said that sucks. So for those of us that might have been media ignored. What's the first thing we need to know that you're going to teach us in Vegas at Mastermind to Millions?
I love that you started with this because this is absolutely the number one mistake that people make when they want to get press is they send out a press release. That is the number one mistake. And the reason for that sort of takes us back to what the heck is a press release? I know everyone's like, wait, what? Yeah, exactly. People that I've worked with that have come to me who have paid thousands, and we're talking, retainers of $10,000 per month for 6 months for PR companies to send out press releases on their behalf to the sound of crickets, are also learning this the hard way. Journalists pretty much universally revile the press release. So if you want to piss a journalist off, send them a press release. And the reason for this is because the press release evolved as the lowest common denominator for the information that a journalist needs to get their story done. So it's the who, what, when, where, why, and how, okay? That's it. It's boring as stuff that I can't say.
You can say it.
You get the idea.
You're with me.
Okay. It's about as exciting as a dog poop. You know what I'm saying? It's not fun. It's what it is. It's like, think about it. It's like, it's like the most basic recipe for one of those dry flax muffins that you have to be
Gluten-free.
starving to eat. And the thing is, most journalists today are not starving. So imagine you have like flax muffin after flax muffin after flax muffin after flax muffin scrolling through their inbox because they're getting hundreds of emails, literally hundreds of emails. I used to get 600 emails when I went out for lunch on my lunch break, and I would come back. I would have 600 new emails sitting in my inbox. So if you think you have email overwhelm, think about what a journalist face, what most journalists face on a daily basis. So you would have to be really starving. They are not starving. So my way, and what I'm really going to get into in great detail in Vegas, is how to differentiate yourself from all those dry, boring press releases, all those dry flax muffins, and come across as a perfect, delicately iced cupcake. It's much easier than you think. It is much easier than you think. And I'm going to give you a little taste. How about that?
Please do, because I have been called a lot of things, but never a delicate cupcake.
This is about to change, Jay Fazat. Well, actually, so let's take you as an example, right? So you've sent out press releases in the past, nothing has happened. And how did we land you? And how did we land you a regular column with Entrepreneur Magazine? And I happen to have interviewed that particular editor after the fact.
May I interrupt just for a brief moment?
Sure.
Okay, so because the truth is, we've sent out press releases a bunch of times, and we have had some success, but there's a sort of a bitter irony to it, which is when we don't need the coverage, we have gotten it. And when I really wanted and needed it and thought it was really fantastic, we never got it. It was like this inverse relationship to that process. So exactly. So I just want to be clear, is that it's not like we never had anything, but there was absolutely an inverse relationship to what we wanted. There's no question.
This is perfect. And let me wager a wild guess here. Chances are when you wanted it, it's because you had a big launch coming, you had an event coming, and that's why you wanted press, right?
Yes.
And getting coverage for an event or a launch is approximately as hard as finding true love. It is. Because the problem that most business owners make is that they send out, they're like, oh my God, I've put all this blood, sweat, and tears into this event. It's going to be amazing. There's so much value, blah, blah, blah. Their tribe gets it, maybe, but it is not a story. So it's not a story. For the average Joe on the street who doesn't know you and doesn't quite understand your topic, they don't get why this event is so sexy. It's not. I mean, unless Bill Gates is going to do a striptease in there, it's like, it's not an event. Paris Hilton has breakfast, it's an event. When you're already famous, then anything you do is an event. For the rest of us mere mortals, what we have to do is come up with a story. And what is a story? And so this brings us back to what do you do instead of a press release? So what you want to do is you want to tell a story is always about somebody at point A. So that's me over here. I'm in pain. I'm not happy. I'm suffering from something, or I'm aspiring to something. And then I move to point B. Everything that happened between point A and point B is story. So the way that you land coverage for an event typically is to talk about, this is what journalists are interested in. Is there a trend happening out there? Are a whole bunch of business owners suffering from something? Are a whole bunch of business owners trying to do something new? Are a whole bunch of business owners starting this? There's a certain process out there on the market that's suddenly become hot news, like masterminds, for example.
I was just going to say,
like masterminds.
I was going to be a bit more of a smart. I was going to say, I heard there's this new fad called the internet, and maybe I don't think it's sticking around, but it's just a fad.
But here's the thing, right? So if you turn around and find out that there's a whole bunch of moms, who are, this is always an interesting topic, the glass ceiling, the fact that corporate America is hostile towards women, for example, especially women in their childbearing ages. So if you happen to work with a lot of women entrepreneurs and that's your market, and you notice that a lot of these moms are now staying home and taking to the internet and killing it on the internet, then this is a story that a journalist would be really interested in, because think about what her audience is interested in. Her audience is made up of these women just like these women, right? They're either women who are going to work in corporate America, who are pregnant and thinking, oh my God, what am I going to do after this? I don't want to have my kid raised by someone else while I go to work all day. Or they're like, oh my God, I'm working this dead-end job. I just do not want to be here in 2016. What do I do? They're all this journalists' target audience, and just by coincidence, because you played your cards right, they're your target audience too.
Yes.
So my number one tip is always align yourself correctly with the right media outlet, because that means you are both, your goals are aligned. Your goal is to create value and to give someone who's watching or listening or reading something useful that they can use, news that they can use. So in this situation, you could give them, 5 tips to launch an internet business. Or if there's a trend happening, then you can put that journalist in touch with yourself as the person who's coaching these women, and also 2 of your success stories, which, by the way, ends up getting your clients free press, which then makes you super sexy to work with, because not only are you the coach that helps them put together their business systems, but you're the coach that they can work with to get free press. And that makes your price irrelevant.
Got that. So what's fascinating about that, and when you and I were working together on the column, and I just want to reiterate one of the things that you said. If I look historically at what we've done, so like I remember hiring someone, and my question, which was clearly the wrong question, my question was, so how robust is your media list in Calgary and Alberta? And I was like, well, I've got 17,800. I mean, we're Calgary. There was 18 of them, right? But I've got all of these pieces, but that wasn't the right question. When you and I started working together, it was like, so where do we want to be seen? Entrepreneur, Success Magazine, Inc., Business
Huffington
Insider,
Post, Fast Company.
Huffington Post, Fast Company. There was only like 5 or 6.
Exactly.
Which you had relationships with based upon the positioning of what masterminds can and do accomplish for people. And, what are we? We're 4 or 5 months afterwards, and we've got the nod. So it wasn't an overnight process, but it it was very strategic. And if we were just sending, shit into the wind, we wouldn't have landed there.
You wouldn't have landed it. You may have landed a one-off mention where you're interviewed as a quote, and that'll happen too. That will actually happen more, because once you get press, you tend to get more. It's a snowball effect. But what you have now is platform. You basically have your Jay Fazette columnist for Entrepreneur Magazine. So you have a hot link that links back to your website. There's an email icon that people can, if they like the article that you've written, they can click on it and get immediately in touch with you. I've made more than $5,000 off of one of those pieces that I've written for Entrepreneur. They didn't pay me, but it's literally from sales that I made from hot leads that were like, oh my God, I never thought about this. Those were such great tips. Tell me more about what you do. I want to know more about what you do. Can we talk? Can we talk? Can we get on the phone? And that's like more success than I've had with all the social media that I've done in my entire life. Pretty much.
So you just brought something up that we need to do with the Entrepreneur. I need to change that email address so that we can distinguish that, because we can't set, in this case, we can't set up like a JV link, but I need an independent email address to track my media inquiries. And
yes.
Thank you for that point, because I had neglected that.
Yes. Yeah.
Beautiful. Okay. So that's number 1. We got to target and we got to tell a story.
Yes.
What's number 2?
It has to be a story that resonates with your target audience.
Okay.
So number 2, and this is sort of comes back to how to create a compelling pitch. The one question, and we'll get into more questions, more of these details during the session in Vegas. But the one thing that I really want you to think about is to answer a question that every single journalist uses as a filter to evaluate your pitch. So let's say you have an awesome pitch. She's still going to ask this question because her boss is going to ask this question. And that question is very simple. It's why now? Why is this story? Why do we cover this story right now? And for a lot of us, we're like, well, business is always in fashion. You know what I'm saying? Like, having a good business, that's always a good idea. For all these,
because the date of my event is on December 4th.
Exactly. I know. And that's the thing. Most people, exactly. You're so
but
right.
They don't care.
You brought that up. For most people, the answer to the question, why now, is, well, I've got my event, or I've got my book launch, or I've got XYZ happening. And I'm like, yeah, no. The real answer to why now is what's happening in the world, what's happening in the audience's life. So I'll give you an example. So it's about 60 to 70%, so it's a pretty high percentage of all the stories that a journalist does on a yearly basis are seasonal. They're the same freaking stories every year. the Christmas story, the Hanukkah story, the New Year story, the resolution story, the Valentine's Day story, the summer story, the back to school story, the bikini body story. You know what I'm saying? It's like it's the same themes that come up. Take any magazine that you read, go to Google, type in the name of the magazine, hit the image button, and you'll see the covers. They'll stack up and you'll see the same, they'll have variations of the same theme. So basically, if you want to rock a journalist's world, you have to answer the question, why now? And say, okay, you have to hook your message onto something that's happening. So for example, Jay, the fact that you have a mastermind coming up, or you're having a conference that teaches business owners how to add 6 figures to their bottom line in 2016, where at the end of the year, people are closing their books. People are thinking, I do not want to be in this place next year, or I want to be in a much better place next year. That's a hook. That's a sort of interesting angle to say, close out your year by looking at a completely new way of doing business. Add this one model to your business and it can change your business for the next year. Because people are in that rethinking, what do I do next mode for January? So there's that. The other thing that I want to talk about is, in the same vein, this whole idea of why now is you can take any subject, by the way, and hook it onto almost anything else. The other thing that you can look at is awareness days. So if you happen to work in a health-related industry, and I know lots of us do, Health Canada, and there are various bodies in different, depending on the country that you're in, they have official awareness days. There's Breast Cancer Awareness Week, and Diabetes Awareness Day, and Domestic Abuse Awareness Day, and just about everything Awareness Day. Mm-hmm. So that's another great way to tell the journalist, hey, by the way, this is why we're doing this story this week. And then you target your message based on that Awareness Day for that particular audience. And can I throw in a quick little thing here?
I can. I just got to share, because my brain is working as you're talking, and I always appreciate talking with you, because I always learn something. So what happens for me, like every year, it's like I get a notification that it's like, oh, next week is Small Business Week, and it was like, and every year in my head it's like, we're going to do a promotion for Small Business Week next year.
Exactly.
And that's been like for 4 years, for crying out loud. So if with the entrepreneur piece, I just really need to block those things out to get ahead of the curve 90 days or 120 days. And I think that's going to make an epic difference.
Absolutely.
So I appreciate that.
That's one of the things that I teach in the course, and we have an entire module dedicated to it, which is coming up with a media plan so that you don't miss out on opportunities, because you're like, dang, there it is again. It's like, shopping online for your spouse's anniversary. It's like all that opportunity left on the table, right? And they're like, yeah, busted, Jay. I know you bought that online. Yes, another gift card. It's like that. But on the other hand, if you had a whole sequence running because you knew that something was coming up, by the way, first of all, a lot of glossy magazines work 6 months in advance. So you'd be pitching Valentine's Day in July this year to get Valentine's Day next year. And if you didn't know that, I'm so sorry. By the time it's like January, they've closed that issue months ago. So you're not going to get in.
Yeah.
So knowing, and that's some of the things that we teach in the course and that we can talk about when I'm in Vegas, knowing what the lead times are on each of these media outlets. TV has a much shorter turnaround time. Some magazines have longer turnaround times. Newspapers have shorter. Digital is changing that landscape completely. This is one of the reasons we update the course on a regular basis, is because new opportunities come up. Right. And how do you leverage that? So that's something we can talk about.
Nice.
Yeah.
I love that. Okay, so that was all valuable. So here's what I want to say to everybody here is Geeta will be on our main stage, and she is also running one of the breakout sessions. So you can actually craft and get clear about what your story is and how you're going to drive traffic and gain attention of the correct media in your region for your market, the people that are working on and perhaps struggling with the exact process. So, it's not what you do, it is the drama of the story, and Geeta will help pull that out. Now, I don't know if this is true, Geeta, but I got to ask one last question.
Yeah, and I have some homework.
Okay, beautiful.
For people to do. Yeah.
So a dear friend of ours, somebody who's in one of our JV summits with you, had said that she had done some work with you about sound bites. Mm-hmm. And number one, I'm like, well, me and sound bites, not so good. Is soundbite something that you're going to work with and give some hints about in Vegas as well? Because that intrigues the hell out of me, even though I can't do it.
It is one of those skills where if you invest in learning how to do this, and I actually have templates to teach you how to do it in the course, and we can do that in the breakout sessions. So if that's something that's super exciting to you, I will absolutely put that in there. I actually teach people how to do it in a template. So I'll give you a clear example of someone that we did this with that it worked for really well. So she's a musician. Her name is Eliza Moore, and she's a musician. Like, talk about, oh shoot, now you got to get, nobody listens to CDs anymore. So you've got to get a producer to open your email and describe your music to get her to listen to it. It's a lot harder than even we business folks. It's a bigger challenge than we business folks face. So what she did was she came up with a soundbite that had to be intriguing enough that the producer was like, oh my God, I have to listen to that. So she says, I'm Eliza Moore, and my sound is what you'd get if Sarah McLachlan, Nelson Mandela, and Mahatma Gandhi played in a band together. Guess who got on NPR?
Nice.
Yeah. So that's an example of a soundbite. It's a way of packaging your message, or packaging not your message globally, because a lot of people are like, oh, that's my elevator pitch. I have an elevator pitch. I'm done with sound bites. And I'm like, okay, that's like having a front door and you're like, I'm done building this house. Like, okay, people walk in that way, but where are they going to sit? What are they going to enjoy? What pieces of you can you put in their mind that they are excited to whip out and share with their friends, right? You want to have these sound bites done, because then all the holiday parties that you go to, you're going to be sharing these little words of wisdom that turn into memes where people are like, oh my God, that is so brilliant. That is the power of sound bites. So the other day I came up with one. We were talking about negative feedback. Okay, I was doing this with one of my coaching students. And I said, listen, negative feedback is just opportunity in a bad mood. And she turned it into a meme.
Right? Honestly, that is one of my favorites right there.
There you go. That's a soundbite. That's a soundbite.
It's all good.
I can't wait to teach you guys how to do this. This is so much fun.
So you're going to have to get your ass to Vegas, make certain that you no, I'm talking to the people at home.
Oh yes. Yeah, so I was going to say, it's like, I'm all booked up.
Because there's a whole bunch of people that in the Mastermind Bootcamp that haven't activated tickets yet, and they're like weird fence sitting. So we're yeah, well, clearly, good Lord. Yes. Anyway, so give us our homework and then we'll get on with our day.
Okay, so your homework, this is going to help you get the most out of your sessions with me. So what I want you to do is I want you to get crystal clear about what it is you do. So what it is you want to do with your business, who you do it for. Okay, so what you do, whom you do it for. So you can have multiple answers to this question if you have different avatars for your different niches. So you work with women entrepreneurs, that could include new moms, that could include executive women. If they happen to be very different, that's fine. You just have a list of that. And then, and this is the really most important part, I want you to start listening very, very carefully to the exact words that they use when they describe what keeps them up at 3 a.m. When they're up at 3 a.m. hitting Google, or when they're lying there in bed and they're unable to sleep and they're like, oh my God, what is it that they're saying to themselves? So the exact words, don't pretty them up. And this is, I know, something that's a challenge for someone like me who loves playing with language. Mm-hmm. Don't find a nicer word. Don't find a prettier word. Use the exact same word or phrase that they use. And then the other side of things is look at the words that they're using to describe their aspirations. If adding 6 figures to their bottom line in 1 year, in 12 months, if that's how they're describing their aspiration, then those are the exact words. And I want you to bring me to the session. I want you to bring a list of these, because then I'm going to pull people out of the audience and I'm actually going to I'm going to get my brain on those sound bites, and we're going to come up with things that you can use, not just in the media, because people come to me for media, but what they end up with is much stronger messaging.
Yes.
Because when you know how to tell your story better, you're telling your story to people that you meet on the street. You're telling your story to people that you meet who are potential partners with you. You just bring yourself so much more opportunity. You're telling a better story at bedtime to your kid. I'm not joking. I'm not joking. This is what drives me. We had a financial planner who worked with us 3 weeks into the course. He calls me up and he says, hey, Geeta, I just want to say thank you. And I was like, Mike, did you get on TV? Because I didn't think you did. And he was like, no, not yet. I'm working on that. But I just want to say we've had the best sales month we've had in 8 years in business. And I was like, oh, okay, well, what do I have to do with that? And he's like, I know. And he was like, no, it's because of the way that you taught us to change the way we talk about ourselves. People are listening. We're closing more sales. People are coming to us. We're getting more referrals than we've ever gotten in our lives before. And it's because we're just telling a different story. That's the power of story. It's game changing. I can't tell you more than that. Like, seriously, I've built a multi 6-figure business in 1 year doing exactly what I'm going to teach you how to do. So proof is in the pudding. I can do this. And I really want to help you do this because I have templates. I have tips. All you have to do is come and play.
Beautiful.
And do your homework so I can turn it into magic.
So the homework is, what do you do?
What to do,
who do you
who
serve?
you do it for, and what are the words that they're using to describe their pain points and their aspirations.
Beautiful. And by the way, that overlaps with a bit of other homework that we're going to use in some of the masterminding processes that we're going to do, which is getting really clear about what do you do and how do you serve your people and all this piece. So that fits together beautifully. And focus on the pain points, the pain points, the pain points, the pain points. Beautiful. Geeta, thank you so much. As always, I enjoy speaking with you, and I always learn something. And I cannot wait for us to have some fun in Vegas and sing you happy birthday and all of those fun, wonderful things.
Yay!
So we'll see you there. Talk soon. And gang, if you're sitting on the fence, get the hell off the fence and get your butt to Vegas, because this will be game changing for you and for your tribe. Thanks so much. We'll talk soon. We'll see you in Vegas.
Bye.